It began with a whisper, a shimmer in the riverbed, a flicker of sunlight on a tiny grain of gold. No one noticed at first. Just a worker, panning for water near a sawmill in California's Sierra Nevada. In the year 1848, his pan caught a glint, a speck so small it might have been a trick of light. But that flicker would ignite an inferno. Within months, the whisper became a roar.
Gold in California.
A rumor carried across oceans, across continents, across the hungry hearts of men. Gold, they said. Gold in California. Two words that rewrote the destiny of a nation. In the frozen winters of New York, in the crowded alleys of London, in the rice fields of China, ears perked, dreams stirred, maps were drawn. Men abandoned homes, families, entire lives, chasing a promise buried in dust. Because gold was not just metal. It was freedom. It was redemption. It was proof that fate could be rewritten with a shovel and a dream. They came by the thousands, men, women, children, crossing deserts and oceans in a frenzy that the world had never seen before. Ships rotted in the harbors of San Francisco, their crews gone, fleeing inland toward the rivers. Towns erupted overnight, tent cities of mud and hope, built by hands blistered with ambition. The air shimmered with dust, sweat, and the fever of fortune. But the gold rush was not a story of wealth. It was a story of belief. Belief so powerful it made men forget hunger, danger, even death. For every nugget of gold pulled from the earth, 1,000 dreams were buried beside it. The rivers of California ran thick with mud and greed. Men waded waist-deep in icy waters, swinging pickaxes until their arms bled. Some found fortune in a single pan. Most found nothing but rocks. And yet they stayed, because hope was the richest vein of all. As gold fever spread, so did the illusion of equality. Here, they said, anyone could become rich. No titles, no kings, just courage and luck. But even in this so-called land of opportunity, the same old hierarchies took root. The merchants grew richer than the miners. Those who sold shovels and bread, whiskey and boots, they struck the true gold. San Francisco transformed overnight. From a sleepy port of a few hundred souls, it became a roaring metropolis of gamblers, traders, and thieves. The streets pulsed with noise, hammers on wood, horses on cobblestone, laughter, shouting, gunfire. It was chaos, but it was creation. The birth of modern California, built not on dreams fulfilled, but on dreams devoured. Beneath the promise of fortune lay something darker. The earth itself began to bleed. Hills were ripped apart by hydraulic cannons, torrents of water, powerful enough to strip entire mountainsides bare. Rivers clogged with silt, forests fell to fuel the frenzy. The native tribes who had lived along those waters for centuries watched their world drown in mud and gold. Their lands seized, their rivers poisoned, their stories silenced beneath the noise of pickaxes. For the miners, gold was salvation. For the land, it was ruin. And yet, amid the wreckage, there were those who rose, not because they found gold, but because they understood gold. A shopkeeper named Levi Strauss, selling durable trousers to miners, stitched his fortune one seam at a time. A banker named Henry Wells lent money where others gambled, turning dust into dynasty. And a merchant named Samuel Brannan, the very man who first shouted the news of gold to the world, sold picks and pans instead of swinging them. He became California's first millionaire, not by digging, but by selling the dream. Because that was the true alchemy of the gold rush, to turn belief into business and illusion into empire. But for most, the rush became a reckoning. The mines grew deeper, the gold harder to find. Men dug not just into earth, but into themselves, into madness, into violence. Camps turned into graveyards. Those who came with hope often left with hollow eyes. The same rivers that once sang with promise, now whispered of ruin. And yet, the fever would not die. It spread to the mountains of Colorado, the deserts of Nevada, the frozen fields of Alaska. Wherever the glint of gold appeared, humanity followed, like moths to flame. Each new rush promised redemption. Each new rush ended the same, with fortunes few, graves many, and nature scarred beyond repair. In the glare of gold, the human heart revealed its truest nature. Greed turned friends into enemies, and strangers into ghosts. The cry of Eureka, I have found it, became both a hymn and a curse. For some, gold meant survival. For others, it meant domination. Chinese laborers, Irish immigrants, freed slaves, all joined the rush, each carrying a different kind of hope. But discrimination followed them into the mines. Taxes were invented to drive them out, laws written to deny them claims. The dream of equality glittered like fool's gold, bright from afar, hollow up close. Still, they kept digging, because in the gold rush, no one could quit. To stop was to face the truth, that the promise had always been a mirage, As the years passed, the gold grew scarce. The rush became industry. Corporations replaced prospectors. Machines replaced men. The dream of instant wealth hardened into systems of control. Banks, railroads, monopolies. Those who once swung pickaxes for hope now labored for wages under men who had learned to mine something even richer than gold: power. Out of the dust, a new America emerged, glittering, ambitious, restless. The same hunger that drove men into rivers now drove them into cities, into oil fields, into stock exchanges. The gold rush was over, but the gold fever lived on, transformed into capitalism itself. For in the end, the gold rush was never just about metal. It was about the human soul, its craving for more, its blindness to consequence, its refusal to rest. And yet from the wreckage, dynasties were born. The railroads that linked a continent, the banks that shaped global finance, the merchants who built cities from tents. They were the inheritors of dust, the ones who learned that real wealth wasn't in the pan, but in the system. The miners dreamed of finding gold. The dynasties learned how to own it. By the 1860s, California had transformed from a wilderness into an empire of commerce. San Francisco's skyline rose with brick and ambition. Ships sailed in not for gold, but for goods. The West had been won, not by guns but by greed dressed as glory. But even as the last rivers were drained and the last hills scarred, a new rush began, this time in the human imagination. The gold rush became legend, a story retold by poets, painters, and presidents. It was the origin myth of a nation that believed in reinvention, that anyone, anywhere could strike it rich. A dream that still echoes in every entrepreneur, every investor, every risk-taker who believes that the next horizon will shine brighter than the last. Yet the ghosts remain. The rivers still whisper of the lives lost, the forests that never regrew, the voices buried beneath progress. The gold is gone, but its shadow lingers, in the skyscrapers of San Francisco, in the greed of markets, in the myth of endless growth. The gold rush taught humanity how to build and how to destroy. It showed how quickly dreams can devour themselves. It revealed that fortune is never free. It is always bought, sometimes with blood, sometimes with silence. And so the story of gold became the story of us, our brilliance and our blindness, our hunger and our hope. Because the gold rush didn't just reshape a land, it reshaped the human heart. In the centuries that followed, gold would fuel empires, wars, and economies. It would back currencies, adorn crowns, and symbolize power itself. But beneath all the glitter, it remained what it had always been: dust. Dust that men killed for, dust that empires rose upon, dust that time would reclaim. And yet from that dust came something lasting, not gold, but lessons. Lessons about greed, about courage, about the fragile balance between creation and destruction. Today, the rivers that once gleamed with promise run quietly under Californian skies. Tourists sift the sand, searching for glimmers that no longer matter. The hills are silent now, their scars fading under wild grass. But if you listen closely, you can still hear the echo, the pickaxe striking stone, the cry of Eureka, carried on the wind. The gold rush was not the beginning of wealth, but the beginning of its myth. It taught us that fortune is fleeting, but ambition is eternal. That progress, without purpose, consumes itself. And that in every age, in every heart, there lies that same fever, the hope that somewhere, hidden just beneath the surface, lies one last nugget of salvation. Because in truth, the gold rush never ended. It simply changed form. From rivers to markets, from pans to screens, from miners to magnates, we are all still digging, searching for our own gold, chasing our own mirage. And perhaps that is the legacy of those who came before us, that the pursuit of wealth, for all its tragedy and triumph, is really the pursuit of meaning. The miners are gone, the gold is gone, but the hunger remains, ancient, unstoppable, human.
Searching for our own gold, chasing our own mirage.
You've been watching Wealth Untold, where stories of fortune, power, and fate reveal the truth behind human progress. Join us next time as we uncover another chapter of history's hidden wealth and explore how dreams built empires and empires built us. Because true wealth is never in what we find, it's in what we learn when we lose it.